Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and for some of you, good night. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. And welcome. Welcome to the most dangerous part was never the punch. That's right. Come in and please make sure you can be attentive today. If we have a sound problem, please let me know right away. Let me see. Everything is fine. Okay. All is well. Great. So, I want to share something with you. It's very important. How do you stop letting old punch define your life? That's right. Most of us have received punches, and it is those punches that define our lives. It defines what do we do with our life, how we behave, where do we go. You see, last week I talked about getting punched in the face. Not because I want to talk about violence, you know me, but because life punches every single one of us. That's right. And those punches often become some of the biggest scars we use to define who we are. The problem is that it was never meant to be that way. Our subconscious mind takes an experience, creates a story around it, and before we know, we start believing that story is who we are. Just a quick note before we continue here. If you weren't here last week, you can watch the replay inside my Facebook group. Simply join the group, and if you have access, you will have access, to this replay of last week live, but also all the previous lives as well. Now, let's go back to why we are here today. Every human being goes through life and get punched in the face. It happens to each one of us. Sometimes physical punch, but most of the time those punches are emotional, psychological, and visible. A rejection, a betrayal, a criticism, an abandonment, a failure, and so many other kind of punches. And while the punch itself may only last a moment, it almost always leaves a mark, not on the face, but on the heart. And if we are not careful, those marks on the heart slowly becomes the way we see ourselves. If you were here last week, you remember something important that I said. The punch lasts a second. The bruise lasts longer, but the story can last a lifetime. So today, I want to go one step deeper. That's right, because the most dangerous things is not the punch. The most dangerous thing is the day you start believing it. Think about it. A child criticizes enough time. One day the child stop hearing criticism and start believing maybe there is something wrong with me. A teenager gets rejected enough time. One day they stop experiencing rejection and start believing maybe I'm not lovable. A business owner fails not once, not twice, several times. And one day they stop saying my business fell and they start saying I am a failure. Can you see the phenomenon? The event becomes an identity, an identities that is powerful. And any any kind of identities becomes so powerful that it stops us from moving forward, from trying to take the right decision in our life. You see, let's take that businessman that failed many times over and over and over. And instead of believing that maybe it's the idea of the business that he had worked on that doesn't work, or maybe it's the plan of his business that did not work well, or maybe it was the employees he had that were not quite the right employee for him. You see, there is a zillion of other reasons to, to the cause of the failure. But 99% of the time, we take it personal. We go out there and we start believing that we are the problem, that we are the failure, that we did not work well, that we did not do what it takes, that we are not lovable, that something within us is what caused the situation. And that creates deep scar because we always defend them. We always defend whatever the cause is as being not external, but as being our fault, even even when it hurts us. It's like the invisible tattoo. You see, imagine somebody tattoos a sentence on your forehead when you're 7 years old, not with ink, with an experience. You're not good enough, not good enough. You're too much, you're too sensitive, you're too emotional, you're too loud, you're too quiet, you're not smart enough, you're not pretty enough, you'll never be successful. Then imagine you growing up, forgetting that tattoo on your forehead. You never see it, right? But you spend your whole life reacting to it, trying to prove it wrong, trying to hide it, trying to compensate for it. That's what many people are doing every day, not living for who they are, living from who life convinced them they were. That's right. Imagine a child who grows up in a house full of distorted mirrors. Every mirror bends reality, makes them look too big, too small, too strange, deformed. And for 20 years, that child believes those mirrors. Then one day, someone, someone shows them a real mirror. The reflection is completely different. So, the problem was never the child, but the child, 20 years later, believed it was the problem, or he or she was the problem. Well, in fact, the problem was the mirrors. Many of the beliefs people carry about themselves are exactly that. Distorted reflection created by painful experience. And the subconscious mind stores those reflections as a fact. Not because they are true, no, because they were repeated many times enough to stick into the subconscious mind and become a sort of reality, a belief that becomes a reality. But it all is based on false vision, on false experience. Well, no, the experience are not false. It's the story we're creating about that experience that is false. Because it happens so many times that we start to believe it that is who we are. You see, most people ask, how do I become more confident? How do I become more successful? How do I become more happy? I think the better question is to ask yourself is this one. Who would I be if I stopped believing the punch? Who would I be if I stopped believing the criticism? Who would I be if I stopped believing the rejection? Who would I be if I stopped believing all the stories? Because underneath of all that, there is still a healthy person, a capable person, a lovable person, a powerful person. The punch never removed it. It never removed the good of you. It only covered it. So there is a difference. You are still the good person deep down. It is the story created from that experience you kept having that made you believe that you were a certain way. And because of that, you shaped and create the rest of your life based on those beliefs, based on those impressions that you are a certain way. But deep down, you're still the good person and nothing is wrong with you. So today, I want you to write down three things. Ask and answer those three questions. What hurt me the most in life? That's right. Ask yourself, what is it that is hurting you the most? Then, once you've answered that question, go with the next question. What did I start believing because of that pain, because of that hurt? It's that belief. Well, let me say it again another way. Do you believe that that pain, that hurt is actually factual? Because there's a difference. Maybe, just maybe, it is not factual. Maybe it is not even an emotional truth, right? Maybe it is just a story that you had to create around that experience in order for you to save the day at the moment it happened to you, in order for you to feel okay, to feel safe, to try to ease that pain. You created a story behind it. And most of the time, 95% or 98 or 99.9, I would even say, most of us turn it against us. In a sense that we don't think that it's the experience that was wrong, but we do believe it is us who are the problem. We are the defect person, or we don't have enough talent. We are not smart enough. There is always something wrong with us. And that is what, well, it's the natural protection reflex that we use all the time, especially when we are young. Because our brain cannot process information the same way, right? Because our brain is not fully developed and we are still into the reptile brain where we're on the defense more than anything else instead of being into the thinking process, analyzing process, evaluating what's good, what's bad. We're not quite there yet when we're young. So it's difficult for a child to evaluate if whatever experience they're experiencing it and whatever that human being in front of them are telling them about who they are is true or not. Because that brain child is not developed enough to do process the experience and the information and having the real truth about that experience. That is that human being in front of us causing the experience is more than likely a human being who is already in pain, who is already hurt, and has its own problem and belief about life. Sometimes it even comes from their family, their ancestor. It's believed, it's pain that is been passed on between generations. So when they have their own child, they repeat the same thing. Or with other human being, it's not even their own child. It could be any other. They will repeat and use the same belief and will make the same experience for others to experience. And it's basically how it all goes. It's a rolling ball that keeps growing and growing and growing until one day, as an adult, we have enough of it. And we're saying, time out, time out. I don't want it anymore. I need to move forward. I know that within me, within my deep heart, I have something good in me. I am a good person. And I have something that I need to share with other people. And I want to do it because I know I will be good at it. Because I know other people will be happy with what I offer them. So, time out. I need to move forward and once for all heal whatever pain I have and change that belief that lives in my subconscious mind so that I can truly be who I am. Not the stories that were built around me and the stories that I've been believing for years, decades, that I was such a person, that I was like A, B, C, D, and I couldn't do more than that. Well, my friend, those can all be changed because deep inside, you are a good person. You know, you have to believe into something. But when life keeps giving you bad experience, you create stories that is equally, if not worse, than the experience you experienced. And that's what's wrong. But it's also natural because it's a mechanism of defense. That's how we react, right? We, most of the time, are into a mode of reaction. It's always like action, reaction, action, reaction. And when we are using that kind of a mode, that kind of a form of behavior, we we cause problems because we don't think, we don't evaluate, and half of the time we react the wrong way. So, whoever you are today is not necessarily the true reflection of who you truly are. Maybe you had those distorted mirrors where you grew up and you looked at yourself differently. You thought and still think that you are a certain way, while deep inside and in your heart, you feel that there is more. That is most of the time how people live their life. Most people discover something shocking, And in that little exercise that I ask you to do, where I ask you to answer those three questions, you will discover as you do the exercise that it will reveal something very substantial for you. It will give you the reality right into your face. You will suddenly look at yourself differently because you will have this little light bulb, this little click where you will understand what story you created with the experience that made you believe that you were not right, that something was wrong with you. But, you know, the belief is not necessarily true. And the beauty of it is that your subconscious mind, if you decide to, can truly be changed. That's right. Wow. A plane. That was a low, that was flying very low. Okay, so just a summary of this live here today. The punch was real. The pain was real. The disappointment was real. But the identity you created afterward may not be real. In fact, I say may not, but most of the time it is not real. Many people spend decades trying to improve an identity that was built from a wound instead of questioning whether that identity was ever true to begin with. The goal is not to become somebody new. No. The goal is to remember who you were before life convinced you otherwise. Because life did convince you otherwise in the story, in the narrative you created because of that experience. So, if this conversation resonates with you, please DM me the word identity. My team and I will personally reach out to everyone who is here live within 24 hours. If you are watching the replay, send me the word identity whenever you watch it, and we'll reach out with you within 48 hours. I will help you identify one belief that may have started with a painful experience and one practical step you can take to begin changing it, to begin removing that pain. Because sometimes the greatest transformation isn't becoming someone else, it's finally seeing yourself clearly. You see, a flower doesn't spend its life trying to become a tree. A rose doesn't spend its life trying to become a sunflower. Only human beings do that. Why? Because somewhere along the way, they forgot what they were. The seed already knows what it is. It doesn't need confidence. It doesn't need motivation. It needs permission. It simply needs the right condition to grow. Maybe that is true for you too. Maybe nothing is wrong with you. Maybe you're simply trying to grow while believing a story that was never yours. So, thank you for being here. Take care of yourself. And I'll see you soon.